Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like first to introduce myself before I introduce our organization of RAI Automotive Industry in the Netherlands. My name is Albie van Buel, and I'm the Managing Director of RAI Automotive Industry NL. I have a 25-year plus background in the automotive industry. In the early days, the 90s, I worked on behalf of Volvo Car with Mitsubishi. So spent also quite a lot of time in Mitsushima at that time when we had the joint venture. And the early 2000s as head of procurement in Volvo Cars in Sweden. Also had a very large supply base in Japan. So I worked with most of the larger companies in Japan. And of course, as part of the joint ventures with Ford, also had a lot of interaction with Mazda. After my career in the automotive industry, I worked 9 years in the wind industry with Vestas wind systems in Denmark, and also there we had a good business and a good start, at least in Japan, with renewable industry. So after my active career, I became the managing director for RAI Automotive Industry NL, who I will present this afternoon to you. Just to give a little glimpse of where we are part of the RAI Association in the Netherlands. We are the authority on the mobility industry, and we create an international platform to connect industry, government and knowledge institutes like a TNO, which you will hear later about, to work together and make sure that we expand our expertise in the field of smart mobility, green mobility, manufacturing materials, human capital, and more important, internationalization for our members in our association as well. As RAI Automotive Industry, we are based in Helmond, southeast part of the Netherlands. It's the Brainport region where we, of course, we connect with the knowledge institutes, with the universities, but also with the main part of our industry in the region where we're here. And then the other part of the RAI Association is based out of Amsterdam. As RAI Automotive Industry, we are an association. We have around 200 members in the industrial part of our community. Big lineup of the organization here. But if we look at the Japanese companies as member of our team, we have AKK Eagle. It's also our chairman, the CEO of AKK Eagle in the Netherlands. Then we have Denso, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Mitsubishi Turbochargers. We have Seiki Sui, which is also based here in Helmond. We have Mirai in Helmond based as well. So we already have a good scale of members from Japan where we work with. Our mission and vision of our organization, of course, starting already in the 1800s, where we were focused on the combustion engine. And today we are very much focused on the future of mobility, looking at green mobility with zero emissions, but also safe mobility with zero accidents, and with digitalization where we have zero congestion. So it comes back into to our mission. So within our organization, our members, we create around 20 billion euros turnover annually, and out of that 20 billion euros, almost 90% is for export. So what we generate on turnover in the Netherlands goes to Germany, more than 40% of that turnover. France, very important country for us with the OEMs, but also in Japan and in the US, the companies we have in our vicinity are working with those countries. Think about an NXP, for instance, with semiconductors. There's almost no car in the world which doesn't have a semiconductor for an NXP. So that's part of this overview. And together in the Netherlands, we have around 50,000 jobs depending on the automotive industry. Internationalization, already mentioned as one of our important pillars of going forward. We are a small country with very, very good innovation and technologies, which we want to bring to the markets, to the OEM markets, which we can influence. So Germany, France, Japan, and the US. And then we're going to look at the future of mobility. So this is where, of course, we are focused on, from the part which we overlook the mobility industry. I got this slide from McKinsey early this year. And of course, like you're aware of, the mobility industry is changing. It's changing in 6 dimensions. So Sustainability becomes much more visible, and all the stars are aligned now. The consumer is changing for the automotive industry. Technology, of course, is changing with the challenges which we have ahead on the environment. Capital markets, more and more important, more and more changing. Even when we speak, the things are changing. Regulations are coming in around emissions, but also around safety. And then we have the industry dynamics with shortages, raw materials, inflation, etc. So everything on the move. We capture those dynamics in our roadmap. We have a high-tech top sector automotive in the Netherlands, where we created, together with the knowledge institutes and universities, we created this document looking 10 years ahead. It started in 2020, and we are now in the process of actualizing what we have written down in this document. This is the base where we work from with the industry, with the governments, and with the knowledge institutes. Why is the Netherlands so important for the automotive industry? Very complex picture, but just what I wanted to show, that this is the Roland Berger Automotive Disruption Radar Index. It's a 360-degree view on how the industry is leading or is positioned in the innovation landscape. It's connecting 26 dimensions, from the coverage of 5G networks and field labs, etc. And already for years, the Netherlands is in the top 3 of the ratings in the Automotive Disruption Radar Index, meaning that our technology is able to create first-time innovations and really good connections to the automotive market. And what are then the innovations? If we look on the green mobility side, we of course look on hydrogen, where we see on the left side we see the renewable energy sources, and on the right side we see the end users of it. So with hydrogen, e-LNG, e-methanol, e-diesel, etc. But we don't only work now for the automotive industry. We will take it mobility-wide, so heavy duty, but also maritime and aerospace is involved as well, where we work very close with together on the e-fuel development or hydrogen development. Next to those areas, we also have the electrification, of course, and we see the battery as a product, because of course one of the most important energy sources which we have now in the automotive industry. But what we're looking at is not only the battery in the car, but also how do you get the batteries charged, smart charging, home charging, charging hubs, the whole landscape which is developing around the infrastructure. We also have to look at the second use or reuse or recycling of batteries. And with this we look on health checks of batteries, so we get BMS systems in place, battery management systems, so we can track and know what's happening in the battery world. So it becomes a product in a very rapid growing industry. And what are then the projects which we have with our members? On the green and smart transport delta, a little bit red line to our total agenda. On the left side we have the hydrogen ICE truck, where DAF already is doing a lot of tests with, as one of our key members. We have the fuel cell technology, making rapid developments on our e-fuel fuel cells. We have, of course, the battery technology in the platforms, and then on the right upper corner we have the whole digitalization of mobility in its widest form. Another pillar of our roadmap is around the infrastructure, loading infrastructure for cars. Solar is coming in there, but also recycling, reuse as part of that work stream. And then we have to look at the digitalization of micro factories. The application of composites, enabling lightweight e-mobility, but also combining production of conventional vehicles with battery vehicles and maybe solar vehicles. So what does that mean? What do we need to bring those technologies together under one roof? And last but not least, human capital, more and more important. We of course dominated in our industry by men, petrol heads and metal benders. So that era is, we are passing that now, looking towards the future, we look on the digitalization, so we look on IT-enabled education, people with universities with a chemical background or with a mathematical background, these make their ways into the automotive or mobility industry, both men and women. And then last but not least, are we that innovative? We could already see that Edison and Henry Ford in 1914 had big plans to produce electrical cars. And one of the main drivers is that the wife of Henry Ford had very much issues with cranking the combustion engine. So with the electrical car it was much easier to start. It was also applied in the White House at that time. But nevertheless, the combustion engine won that race at the end. And as said, it's in a larger part due to the power of the oil companies. So 100 years after Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, we're still looking to find solutions to protect our Earth and make sure that our children also have a prosperous future. Two visionaries here. We have on the left side Elon Musk with, of course, the electrification with Tesla, and on the right side we have Lex Hoofloot with the Lightyear.
The biggest reason for me to do this is climate change.
The future of cars is electric. However, the increase in electric vehicles creates some issues, like the shortage of charging stations and an overloaded electricity grid, not to mention the lack of renewable energy. The highly efficient solar electric vehicle, or SEV, solves these problems by using nature's power in an effective way. The large solar panels of the car maximize its energy yield, and the vehicle's efficiency minimizes energy consumption. Any excess energy can be redirected to other devices, such as your washing machine or this lamp. The number of kilometers you can drive on the sun's power depends on the radiation in the area. Take the Netherlands. In winter, SEVs charge 3 times less, and in summer, 8 times less than a conventional EV. Less charging means more money saved. Because of the SEV's efficiency, a much smaller battery is therefore sufficient. Efficiency like this means SEVs charge double the range per hour compared to a conventional EV and on any charger, without compromising its long range.
Lightyear is a car which is developed and designed here in the Netherlands, in Helmond. But at the end, the vision is that in future we will drive completely CO2 neutral on green energy sources. So before we get there, and as I mentioned, not 100 years from now, we should do this much quicker. These are the questions I think we need to answer, and we need to answer them quickly. So we have different technologies where we can protect the emission levels with. So if it's a combustion engine on hydrogen or e-fuels, is it a battery vehicle which we're going to or maybe other solutions which might come up there. We have seen the solar vehicle as well, which is coming into this world. So my view is don't focus on one technology, keep it as open as possible, and that's where we quicker get to our goals and we don't lock ourselves into maybe a dead-end strategy, which we don't want. The other part is digitalization of mobility. What will the position be of the software service companies, the Googles of this world? So how will they position and get their place into our industry? And when we charge our batteries or when we use the fuel in our cars, they should come from green sources. So water, wind, solar, but which one and how quick we can apply it, that again is the question which we need to answer. But those 3 areas on the left side will dominate the change in our industry in the coming years, and we need to be part of that, of course. Customer preferences are changing. The generation after my generation has different priorities than we had when I was at that age. Total cost of ownership will be an important part of the future with mobility. What will the car makers do? The current OEMs, which are on top of the value chain, how will they position themselves in the future? How quickly will they be able to follow the journey towards the green and digital mobility? I think that's a question to be answered. Very important also, how is Europe positioning themselves against the rest of the world? In the OEM industry, we are on a global market. It means that the raw materials which we are using, the price levels which we are using are always based on a global scale. If we start running out of sync between the technology or the developments in North America or in the Americas, in Asia and Europe, the global market is not a global market anymore. And that also means volumes in certain areas will go down. We are not on the same pace of technology, so that will have a big impact on our industry as well if we don't coordinate ourselves globally around where we want to be. Then two big questions for my, which I put on this slide, which keeps me busy. So how do we ensure that we are focused on the well-being of the world or the well-being of the earth in the future, and not with how much money we can earn? And then last but not least, today everybody wants to own a car or owns a car. Will we still be able to own a car in the future? So my preferred future, we are still with a few people in the world who has access to mobility at the moment, but there are still billions of people have not been flying in airplanes, who don't own a car, not been driving a car. But we cannot prohibit that. We cannot disallow those people to do the same as we did. That even calls for more urgency to make sure that we come up with the solutions to protect our world, make sure that we have green or CO2 neutral emissions, that we are green in mobility, and that when we use mobility, it also can be done in a safe way, and that we don't spend hours and hours in congestions, but that mobility is flexible and nice to participate in. So we have quite a true challenge ahead of us. We need a lot of innovation, we need a lot of technology. We look forward to work together with the Japanese industry. As we always said in the Ford Motor Company Group, the innovation in mobility is coming from Japan, and it's coming from Germany. I still believe that's still the case nowadays. So we look forward to work very close together, as I also did in my Volvo time, with the Japanese industry, and make sure that we have a very nice and good world for our children in the future. Unfortunately, I cannot be present here today myself, but we have people from the BOM and from the province in the meeting here today, also from TNO, part of our association. So please, I'd like to invite everybody to connect with them, also to get in contact with us, and looking forward to the opportunities the future will bring to meet and take this to the next stage.